I teach today, you're going to get a little bit of a science lesson if nothing else, but hopefully you get more than that out of what I teach today. And I want to start out by asking, where are you? Are you in the midst of the desert, or are you in the midst of the storm, or a little of both? As I talk about a desert and a storm, how can you relate? How can you relate to what your current circumstances are and what you are going through? As you self-reflect on the conditions of your life, as I teach and speak today, what can you do to make it better for yourself and for the ones around you on a daily basis? A desert, lots of sand, hot, not very much life of any kind. A desert is referred to as barren, not bearing any fruit, not being fruitful, unproductive, not moving forward, stagnant, complacent, and so many other things. And it says that a desert is a barren area of landscape where little precipitation occurs, and consequently living conditions are hostile for human, plant, and animal life. About 1/3 of the land surface of the world is arid or semi-arid. Rain does not happen often, but downpours do happen, resulting in flash floods. Plants tend to be tough and wiry with small or no leaves, water-resistant cuticles, and often spines to deter herbivory. Animals need to keep cool and find enough food and water to survive. Many are nocturnal and stay in the shade or underground during the heat of the day. They tend to be efficient at conserving water, extracting most of their needs from their food. Desert farming is possible with the aid of irrigation in the Imperial Valley in California. Many trade routes have been forged across deserts, especially across the Sahara Desert, and traditionally were used by caravans of camels carrying salt, gold, ivory, and other goods. Uninterrupted sunlight gives potential for the capture of large quantities of solar energy. A desert is a region of land that is very dry because it receives low amounts of precipitation. Deserts are sometimes classified as hot or cold, semi-arid, or coastal. Geographical locations of deserts can have trade winds, mid-latitude, rain shadow, coastal, monsoon, or polar deserts. In the spiritual sense, the surroundings of sand and barren land allows for no growth. Everything seems to be dead or dying. The Bible refers to a desert as the wilderness. In Jeremiah 2:8, they did not say, Where is the Lord who brought us up out of the land of Egypt, who led us through the wilderness, through a land of deserts and of pits, through a land of drought and of deep darkness, through a land that no one crossed and where no man dwelt. This can relate to our former life without God, where we were going aimlessly to and fro with no direction. But we knew there had to be a better life that we alone could not do. We alone could not do without God in our lives. Deuteronomy 2:7. For the Lord your God has blessed you in all that you have done. He has known your wanderings through this great wilderness. These 40 days the Lord your God has been with you. You have not lacked a thing. God has always been with us through it all, but we did not recognize and acknowledge that we need him in our lives. Sometimes we are on top of the world, and other times we are discouraged because of situations and circumstances that lead us to think, where are you, God? Because God's time is not our timing. We tend to get discouraged. But we know that we can trust and believe that God is in control. In Isaiah 48:21, it says, They did not thirst when he led them through the deserts. He made the water flow out of the rock for them. He split the rock, and the water gushed forth. God makes a way where there seems to be no other way, all in his time. So as we reflect on the desert, if that's where you're at or that's where you think you're at, and that's okay. It's not completely bad, but it's not always completely good. Now I'm going to go to the storm. A storm disrupts our daily lives. We don't like storms. It can be an illness. It can be financial hardship. It can be somebody with a bad attitude in our lives, and so on. A storm is any disrupted state of an environmental atmosphere, especially affecting its surface, and strongly implying severe weather. The disruption can be strong winds, tornadoes, hail, thunder, lightning, heavy precipitation, heavy freezing rain, cyclones, windstorms, or wind transporting some substance through the atmosphere, as in a dust storm, blizzard, sandstorm, or anything else. Storms have the potential to harm lives and property and affect the everyday lives of people. Storms are created when a center of low pressure develops with a system of high pressure surrounding it. There are different types of storms. Ice storm, blizzard, snowstorm, coastal storm, firestorm, dust devil, windstorm, squall, gale, thunderstorm, tropical cyclone, hailstorm, tornado. They all have the potential to cause harm to many. According to the Bible, a giant storm sent by God flooded the earth. And we think we all know this story. Noah and his family and the animals entered the ark, and the same day were all the fountains of the great deep broken up, and the windows of heaven were opened, and the rain was upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights. The flood covered even the highest mountains to a depth of more than 20 feet, and all creatures died. Only Noah and those with him on the ark were left alive. Some storms are bigger than others. Some cause more damage than others. Some last longer than others. One thing that they all have in common is they don't last forever. Again, one thing they have in common is they don't last forever. In Matthew 8:24, and behold, there arose a great storm on the sea, so that the boat was being covered with the waves, but Jesus himself was asleep. Luke 8:23, but as they were sailing along, he fell asleep, and a fierce gale of wind descended on the lake, and they began to be swamped and to be in danger. Isaiah 25:4, for you have been a defense for the helpless, a defense for the needy in his distress, a refuge from the storm, a shade from the heat, for the breath of the ruthless like a storm against the wall. In the spiritual sense, storms, they happen to everyone at some time in their spiritual lives. The disruption, where it disrupts our lives, it stops us in our footsteps, it makes us think, it makes us reflect, it makes us appreciate what we have. Could be car problems, unexpected repairs. You got a little extra money, or you worked a little bit extra, and then your car breaks down. There goes the money that you had extra, right? That happens. That's a disruption. That's a storm. Marriages, issues between a husband and wife or between their families. Health issues, an unforeseen illness or a need for major surgery can be a storm. Employment, problems on the job or a lack of a job. Financial, money problems, having too much or too little. Sometimes we can have too much and don't use it wisely. Spiritual, it seems the closer you get to God, the more problems that are coming at you. Some of the storms can be bad attitudes, people in your family, people in your home, people that you know, bad spirits surrounding you. A resistance to do God's will. Life doesn't seem fair. And it happens to the good and the bad. You might be asking yourself, why me, when you're going through a storm? So, are you in the midst of the desert, feeling like you have done nothing for God and his kingdom, but know that you can ask him to help you make the best of your circumstances? Or are you in the midst of the storm, battling one trial after another and knowing that God will see you through it all? Or are you not sure what God wants for you or what you want for yourself, but are still seeking his plan in your life, trusting and believing for all things to come to pass in his time? Or maybe you're on the mountaintop, rejoicing for God's blessing and mercy in your life or on your life. Brothers and sisters, we need to be encouraged. He has a plan for each and every one of us here today. Here's a couple of scriptures to remind us that God is in control. Psalm 107:29. He caused the storm to be still, so that the waves of the sea were hushed. When we're in the midst of the storm, he's right there in the middle with us. Through it all. You may not see it, you may not realize it, but he's there with us through it all. Matthew 8:26, he said to them, why are you afraid, you men of little faith? Then he got up and rebuked the winds and the sea, and it became perfectly calm. One day, 1 hour, 1 minute, you may be going through a storm, and before you know it, it's gone. He has calmed the seas. He has calmed the storm. He has made everything good. God alone can make our deserts better, and he alone can calm the storms in our lives. So are you at the top of the mountain or in the valley? So do I pull away or push forward to see what God has in store for me? Some of us know of each other's struggles and trials, but most importantly, God knows, and he will not leave us alone. In studying for this about 2-3 weeks ago, when Brother Lucifer told me I was going to have to do this today. Not have to, but it was okay. This desert versus a storm just came to me, and just slowly I've been putting it together and realizing certain things that have happened and so on, and some of the things that I talked about are some of the things that I went through in one way or another. In reflecting on my own life, I'd rather be in the storm, knowing that God is working on me, molding me to what he wants me to be. I'm not going to appreciate it when I'm going through the storm, but when it's all over, we realize that because I'm believing that God has something for me. So let's lift each other up in prayer as we go through what we go through. God's will be done in our lives in his time. Neither the storm nor the desert is completely good or bad. There is a season for everything. Where is God leading you? You will overcome. I leave you with this. I don't know what tomorrow holds, but I know who holds tomorrow.